started at 2 o'clock. It's not quite 2 o'clock, so I won't start anything official until the actual 2 o'clock, but I will get things ready. And down in here. This is always nice for those of you who want to take pictures. It's nice to be able to take a picture without the Bible.
Can we walk up? Is that okay, or do you want us to wait?
Why don't you, let me see, where am I here? We'll just do it from here at a distance. When I'm finished the ceremony, then you'll actually be able to walk up to the, and I'll put the wreath here so you get put the wreath in front of it. And I'll actually undo this chain as well. And then I'll step aside so that I'm not in the view. And I will need some volunteers. Make sure I got another minute in case somebody's dashing down here. We do this at 10 and 2 every day, April through October, and we do it to honor the general. And what we'll do first is we'll start off with the pledge. And I'm going to ask for some volunteers. We'll see if we have any military people to be the two on either side of the wreath. The wreath will get placed right about here. We don't go too far back. And then I need somebody who is a good reader to read George Washington's prayer. And we can now pick people. So do I have military people here? All right, we have you and you. You can come right up here on either side. Do I have somebody who would like to read George Washington's prayer? I'm going to give it to you ahead of time. There you are. You can take a look at the words to it. And we'll start off with the pledge. I will say good things about Washington, which is pretty easy to do. Then you will place the wreath back there, and we'll have the reading of the prayer at the end. All right, so who'd like to help start with the pledge? Anybody like to lead the pledge? I mean, I know it, but I bet you do too. Who'd like to start us off with the pledge? Thank you, sir.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we are standing where a lot of famous people have stood. Presidents have stood here, kings and queens have stood here, and they've all pretty much stood here for one reason, and that is George Washington was a remarkable man, and he needed to be honored. And we know he's the father of our country, and we know he's commander-in-chief, but when you think of him as a human being, listen to how many years he gave up being here. Think of all of the Christmases and the birthdays that he missed. In 1775, he kissed Mrs. Washington goodbye at the start of the war, and he said basically, "I'll see you at Christmas." 8 years later, 8 years, he came back home here. Now, she's buried to the left. She did not like to travel, but every winter when the military did not fight, they had what was called the winter encampment. She took medicines and blankets to wherever he was, and she was there during that winter of Valley Forge. She wanted to be with her general, and she took things to the troops. Finally, he comes back in 1781. He is in Mount Vernon, and he plans the Battle of Yorktown, and that is the battle that won the Revolution. Then he did something pretty remarkable that most military leaders who led successful revolutions did not do. He did not become our new king or our new leader. And his men who had fought for him wanted him to become the new king because that's just what you did. And he said no. And the prayer that we'll hear is where he was a little concerned that after he fought so long, instead of having one United States, we might have 13 little states. But he said, no, And he resigned his commission in 1783. He was over in Annapolis. Now this was pretty close to Christmas, and he was bound and determined to ride hard and be home here Christmas Day, and he made it. Because when he wanted to do something, he usually did. But then, 5 more years, he was back and forth to Philadelphia because he was writing the Constitution. Because now we had a new government, we needed to have a rule book, how to run the government. And he was 57 when they said, we would like to elect you the first president. And even Mrs. Washington said, aren't you a little old? And he had 1 tooth left. His teeth always pained him. So think about him as a human being. He always had teeth problems, massive pain there. He's 57 years old. He wants to be a farmer here. And he said, well, my country needs me, so I'm going to be president. But it's only going to be for 4 years. And then at the end of the 4 years, we were still a little shaky. And Thomas Jefferson talked him into another 4 years. Thomas Jefferson said, the North wants this and the South wants this, but the North and South will hang together if they have you to hang upon. And Washington said, okay. So you can bet at the end of that second term, 21 years away from Mount Vernon, he was ready to come home here. And then he comes home here, and he's only here for a couple years, and he catches that awful illness, and he's gone in a day and a half. So that's why we honor him today. Because just think about how much you would have missed from your family, how much growing up. And he did that because his country needed him. And now we're going to have you put the wreath back there, and we'll take pictures of that. And you can pause back there so your family and friends can take pictures. And you can step out, leave the wreath there. And then you can read George Washington's prayer. And again, you know, it's written in the language of back in the day. But basically he's saying we cannot become 13 individual countries. We cannot simply be selfish and think only of ourselves. We have to work together.
I now make it my earnest prayer that God would have the United States in his holy protection, that he would incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, to entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another, for their fellow citizens of the United States at large, and particularly for their brethren who have served in the field, and finally, that he would most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed region, and with that humble imitation of whose example in these things we can never hope to be a happy nation.
Very well read, thank you. All right, I'm going to put the chain up. You are welcome to come up to the chain and take pictures. And then the people who helped me, you can come over here and I'm